Every assassin in the Assassin's Creed franchise is a trained killer with ancient bloodlines and weapons that shouldn't exist, but some of them would absolutely destroy the others, and it's not even close. So today, I'm ranking every assassin from weakest to most powerful, starting with someone who saved the world but could barely throw a punch, Desmond Miles. This ranking isn't about who matters most to the story, it's about who would win. And by that metric, Desmond Miles is dead last, which is ironic because the guy literally prevented a solar apocalypse. He achieved temporary godhood through first civilization tech, saved every living thing on Earth, then died. But here's the thing, before Abstergo grabbed him, Desmond was a bartender. His entire assassin career was sitting in a chair reliving other people's memories. He absorbed their skills through the Animus, sure, but his actual combat experience, almost zero. But at least Desmond had the excuse of being a modern guy thrown into an ancient war. The next assassin had every advantage and still ended up here. Yusuf Tazim. Yusuf Tazim is the kind of guy you genuinely root for, which makes what happens to him that much worse. He's the leader of the Constantinople Brotherhood during Revelations, holding the entire operation together while Byzantine Templars close in from every angle. He's loyal, competent, and one of the few characters who actually seems happy to be doing this work. But the game never lets you forget that Ezio is the real show. Yusuf supports him, coordinates operations around him, and never gets a defining moment that screams this guy is special. Then he gets killed by Byzantine Templars on Prince Amit's orders. His death exists almost entirely to motivate Ezio's final act of rage. He's a good man, a good assassin, and ultimately expendable. But at least Yusuf earned his place through years of service. The next assassin on this list took a considerably more unconventional path to get there, Mary Red. Mary Red disguised herself as a man to fight on pirate vessels in the Caribbean, and she was genuinely terrifying at it. This wasn't some pampered noble playing dress-up. She served as a soldier before she ever set foot on a ship, bringing real combat experience that exceeded many formally trained fighters of her era. In Black Flag, she earns the respect of every pirate and assassin she encounters through sheer tactical thinking and personal bravery. Nobody questions her, nobody second-guesses her. She commands a room the same way she commands a deck. Here's the thing though, the game keeps the camera on Edward. Mary Reed is clearly dangerous, clearly capable, and clearly underserved by screen time. We're left ranking her on what we actually see rather than what she could obviously do, and that gap is frustrating. But if you think limited screen time held her back, wait until you see what Xiao Jun accomplished with even less. Xiao Jun was personally trained by Ezio Auditore. Let that sink in for a second. The greatest assassin in Brotherhood history looked at this woman and said, yeah, I'll teach you everything I know. That's not a small detail. That's a direct lineage of knowledge passing from Renaissance Italy to Ming Dynasty China. Her mission was straightforward but brutal. Reclaim the precursor box from the Eight Tigers, a Templar-aligned group embedded deep in Chinese politics. She pulled it off largely alone, operating in hostile territory with zero backup infrastructure. Here's the thing though, her entire story lives inside a side-scrolling spin-off. Chronicles China is a solid game, but it's not exactly the platform for showcasing legendary feats. She goes from Ezio's student to a confident operative dismantling a political conspiracy across China, which is genuinely impressive. But we're left imagining what she could do rather than watching it happen. The potential is enormous. The documentation isn't, but if Xiao Jun suffered from limited screen time, our next assassin had the opposite problem, an entire main entry and still couldn't convince everyone he belonged. Arnaud Dorian. Arnaud Dorian had the French Revolution as his backdrop, which is one of the most dramatic periods in human history. Guillotines, political chaos, an entire nation tearing itself apart. And somehow, Arnaud made it all about a girl. Here's the thing. Arnaud was born into Parisian aristocracy, lost everything to personal tragedy, and stumbled into the Brotherhood looking for answers he never really found. His entire journey is less legendary assassin reshaping history and more guy working through his issues while occasionally stabbing people, which is, not ideal for ranking. He developed solid parkour skills, mastered stealth tactics, and became genuinely competent at navigating revolutionary Paris. But his achievements stayed personal and localized. The French Revolution was right there, and Arnaud treated it like background noise for his redemption arc. But if Arnaud's impact felt small for his setting, The next assassin turned a far more personal fight into something genuinely legendary, a Whale. Most assassins in this franchise stumble into the Brotherhood through revenge or destiny, or some ancient artifact whispering sweet nothings into their brain. Ada Whale. He just wanted people to stop being enslaved. Pretty solid motivation. He starts as Edward Kenway's first mate on the Jackdaw, essentially the most competent person on that ship, while Edward was busy chasing gold and making questionable life decisions. But Adewale steps out of Kenway's shadow entirely in Freedom Cry, where he launches a one-man war against the Atlantic slave trade in Saint-Domingue. He builds a sanctuary for escaped slaves, coordinates operations against both Templar interests and colonial powers, and does it all while being an absolute monster in combat. Naval warfare, firearms, hand-to-hand, the man does not have a weak point. Here's the thing though, his moral clarity is genuinely rare for this franchise. He's not chasing some glowing orb or untangling a family conspiracy. He's freeing people. That simplicity makes him compelling, but his scope stays Caribbean-focused, which keeps him from climbing higher. Speaking of assassins fighting for liberation in colonial territories, there's another one who took a very different approach, Aveline de Grandpré. Most assassins have one identity. Aveline de Grandpré has three, and that's exactly why she's more dangerous than half the people ranked above her on combat alone. Operating in 18th century Louisiana under Spanish control, Aveline trained under her mentor Agathe and developed something no other assassin in the franchise has ever replicated. She maintained three fully distinct personas: the lady, the slave, and the assassin. Each one gave her access to completely different social circles, completely different locations, and completely different information networks. The lady could walk into a governor's mansion. The slave could move through plantations without a second glance. The assassin could disappear into the bayou like she never existed. Here's the thing. While other assassins are figuring out how to sneak past guards, Aveline is getting invited through the front door. She wins before the fight even starts, and when she does fight, she's combining the liberation of enslaved people with direct strikes against Templar operations, proving her commitment goes way beyond just completing contracts. She's not the strongest fighter on this list, but she might be the smartest. Speaking of assassins who prefer punching first and thinking later, let's talk about Jacob Frye. Jacob Frye. Jacob Frye is the guy who brings brass knuckles to a chess match, and honestly, he makes it work more often than he should. As co-protagonist of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Jacob operates in Victorian London with all the subtlety of a brick through a window. Where his twin sister Evie would spend 3 hours planning the perfect infiltration route, Jacob kicks the front door down and starts swinging. He's reckless, he's loud, and he's having the time of his life doing it. Here's the thing though, he's actually effective. Jacob establishes the Rooks, an entire street gang, and turns them into a legitimate arm of Brotherhood operations across industrial London. That takes charisma you can't fake. People followed this man into fights against Templar interests because he made it look fun, but his ceiling is exactly where his floor is, street level. His strategic impact never extends beyond the block he's currently punching his way through, and splitting every major achievement with Evie means you can never fully credit him for their shared wins. He's the fun twin, not the effective one. But if you think Jacob's lack of long-term strategy holds him back, wait until you meet the pirate who didn't even want to be an assassin, Edward Kenway. Edward Kenway wasn't supposed to be an assassin. He literally stumbled into the Brotherhood by looting a dead man's robes and pretending to be someone he wasn't. Which is, not the most noble origin story. But here's the thing. He didn't just fake it till he made it. He actually made it. Edward started as a pirate motivated entirely by greed. Gold, glory, rum money, bigger ship, zero interest in creeds or ancient wars between secret organizations. But somewhere between establishing Nassau as a free port, coordinating pirate fleets against Templar operations, and mastering both naval warfare and assassination techniques, the man accidentally became one of the most effective assassins the Brotherhood ever produced. His dual pistol combat style alone puts him in a different category. Most assassins get a hidden blade and some parkour training. Edward brought 4 flintlocks, a ship full of cannons, and the tactical mind of someone who'd been outmaneuvering the Royal Navy since Tuesday. He eliminated Templar operatives across the entire Caribbean and reshaped the region's political landscape. No birthright, no mentor handing him a blade at age 12. Just a pirate who stole a costume and became the real thing. But if you think a pirate turned assassin is impressive, Wait until you meet the woman who turned Victorian London into her personal chessboard. Evie Fry. Evie Fry is what happens when the Brotherhood actually works as intended. She's not just a fighter, she's a scholar, a tactician, and a genuine believer in what the Creed stands for, which already puts her ahead of about half the people on this list, where her brother Jacob was out brawling with street gangs and improvising his way through missions like a Victorian wrecking ball. Evie was studying Templar networks, building infiltration strategies, and adapting London's own industrial technology into assassination tools. She mastered disguise across every level of London society, from the factory floors to the parlors of Parliament. The woman could walk into any room in the city and belong there, and the results speak for themselves. She dismantled major Templar operations, eliminated high-value targets, and did it all while outnumbered and out-resourced at every turn. But here's what really separates her from Jacob. Evie never lost sight of why she was doing it. She engaged with the Brotherhood's philosophy, resisted the pull of personal ambition, and stayed disciplined when it would have been easier not to. Jacob's a solid assassin, Evie's the better one. But if you think combat skill is what defines a great assassin, wait until you meet someone who proved that wisdom might matter more. Achilles Davenport. Most assassins on this list earn their ranking by being the deadliest person in the room. Achilles Davenport earns his by being the reason other deadly people exist in the first place. Here's the thing about Achilles. He survived the complete destruction of the American Brotherhood during the French and Indian War. The Templars didn't just beat them, they annihilated them, wiped the entire colonial operation off the map, and Achilles, broken and aging, kept the homestead alive for decades as the last ember of everything the Brotherhood had built. But his real power is what he did with those decades of isolation. He became the single repository of every technique, every strategy, every piece of institutional knowledge the colonial Brotherhood ever possessed. And when Connor Kenway showed up at his doorstep, Achilles turned a grieving Mohawk teenager into one of the most formidable assassins the Brotherhood has ever produced. Without Achilles, Connor never learns the Creed, never builds the network, never becomes Connor. That's literally the difference between the American Brotherhood existing and not existing. Could he still fight in his old age? Absolutely. But ranking him purely on combat misses the point. Achilles represents a kind of power the franchise almost never acknowledges. The power of being the person who makes everyone else possible. And speaking of the assassin he made possible, let's talk about the man himself. Connor Kenway. Connor Kenway is raw power given a hood and a tomahawk. Born Ratanhnake.Tun of mixed English and Mohawk heritage, this man was built different from the ground up. Trained under Achilles Davenport, he became arguably the most physically imposing assassin the Brotherhood has ever produced, and his combat style reflects that. Connor doesn't dance around enemies like Ezio, he walks through them. His tomahawk techniques are devastatingly efficient, his firearms handling is precise, and his hand-to-hand combat operates at a level that genuinely exceeds normal human capability. Every fight he's in feels like watching someone who could bench press the entire Continental Army. But here's where it gets interesting. Connor didn't just eliminate a few Templar operatives and call it a day. He systematically dismantled major Templar figures across the colonies, disrupted their operations throughout the entire Revolutionary War, and successfully defended colonial interests while doing it. On top of all that, his connection to First Civilization artifacts, including the Apple of Eden, gives him access to power that goes beyond just hitting things really hard. We're talking reality manipulation territory. Here's the thing though, Connor fights for a revolution that ultimately betrays his people. He wins every battle and still loses the war that actually mattered to him, which is, not ideal, but if Connor's story feels tragic, wait until you meet someone who helped build the Brotherhood from nothing. Aya is the most underrated figure in the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, and it's not even close. She shares a game with Bayek, which means most people think of her as the secondary character, the supporting role, the wife who helps out sometimes. She co-founded the entire Brotherhood. Let me say that again. Every single assassin on this list, every hidden blade, every creed, every bureau, every leap of faith exists because of decisions Aya made during the Ptolemaic period in Alexandria. She didn't just fight alongside Bayek. She sat down and built the organizational framework that would survive for thousands of years. That's not a supporting character, that's an architect. And here's the thing. After establishing the Hidden Ones in Egypt, she didn't retire. She moved operations to Rome and continued directing Brotherhood activities across an entirely different region. Most assassins spend their whole careers in one city. Aya built an international organization. Her power isn't measured in kill counts or combat feats, though she's more than capable in both. Her power is structural. She built the machine. Every assassin ranked above and below her on this list is a product of the system she helped design. That's a form of influence that transcends any individual fight. But if Aya built the Brotherhood's foundation, the next entry on our list represents its evolution into something deadlier and more refined. Neoi is what happens when you strip away every advantage and just leave the craft. No pieces of Eden, no Isu bloodline nonsense, no magical artifacts bending reality in her favor, just a shinobi operating in feudal Japan with a blade, her training, and an almost surgical understanding of how power actually works in the region. And honestly, that's what makes her impressive. She's a pure stealth assassin in the truest sense. Her mobility is exceptional, her infiltration tactics are sophisticated, and her mastery of period-appropriate weaponry means she's not relying on anything she didn't earn through years of disciplined practice. Every kill is manual, every escape is skill. There's no activate the magic apple and win button anywhere in her toolkit. Her targets weren't small either. She eliminated major political and religious figures aligned with Templar interests, disrupting operations that threatened Brotherhood stability across the entire region. That's not easy work when you're operating without supernatural backup. Here's the thing though, being a peak human assassin is genuinely remarkable, but it does create a ceiling. When the assassins above you on this list are literally channeling ancient gods or wielding reality-warping technology, pure craft can only take you so far. She's the best version of what a normal human can be in this world. That's both her greatest strength and her only real limitation. But speaking of feudal Japan, Naoi wasn't the only one making waves during that era. Yasuke. Yasuke is the best pure fighter on this entire list, and I will die on that hill. Here's the thing about every other assassin we've talked about. They're trained in one tradition, one school of combat, one set of techniques refined over years within a single cultural framework. Yasuke has two. He mastered the katana and traditional samurai combat under the Japanese martial establishment during one of the most violent periods of political unification in the country's history. Then he learned Brotherhood assassination methodology on top of that. That's not a fighter, that's a weapon with a philosophy degree. The man went from African warrior to recognized samurai in 16th century Japan, a society not exactly known for handing out that title to outsiders, and then pivoted into assassin work like it was a casual career change. His demonstrated prowess impressed both the Japanese military hierarchy and Brotherhood operations in the region, which is like getting a standing ovation from two audiences who don't even speak the same language. But here's the catch. Yasuke has zero connection to First Civilization artifacts, no supernatural edge, no reality-bending nonsense. Everything he does is rooted in extraordinary but completely mortal skill, which means every assassin ranked above him from this point forward is to some degree cheating. And the first one on that list built an entire Brotherhood from scratch, Bayek. This is where the list stops being about great assassins and starts being about legendary ones. Every assassin we've talked about so far joined something that already existed. Bayek didn't have that luxury, he built it. Bayek of Siwa was a Medjay, one of the last protectors of an ancient Egyptian tradition, and his entire world collapsed when the Order of the Ancients murdered his son Kemu. That's not backstory flavor, that's the inciting incident for the entire Assassin Brotherhood. A father's grief over his dead child became the foundation for an organization that would last thousands of years. Here's what makes Bayek terrifying in the field. The man was a walking armory. Swords, bows, spears, heavy blades. He mastered all of them with the kind of proficiency that let him carve through heavily armored soldiers who should have destroyed him on paper. His tactical instincts meant he was always 3 steps ahead of whoever he was hunting. He systematically dismantled the Order of the Ancients across Egypt, eliminating high-ranking members embedded into every level of Egyptian power. These weren't street-level thugs. These were the people pulling the strings of an entire civilization, and Bayek ripped them out one by one. But the real edge, First Civilization technology. Bayek had access to Isu artifacts, that enhanced his already ridiculous capabilities into something genuinely supernatural. He turned personal tragedy into a legacy that outlived empires. But the man who perfected what Bayek started, that's a whole different conversation. Altair Ibn La Ahad. This is the one, the original, the character who literally defined what an assassin is in this franchise, and every single entry on this list owes something to him. Altair Ibn La Ahad was born into the Brotherhood and trained from childhood, which meant by the time most people were figuring out what they wanted to do with their lives, he was already one of the most talented operatives the organization had ever produced. But here's the thing, talent without wisdom is just arrogance with a blade, and early Altair had arrogance in bulk. He violated fundamental Brotherhood principles and got himself publicly disgraced. And that disgrace is exactly what makes his arc one of the best in the entire series. The journey from cocky prodigy to enlightened master isn't just character development, it's the philosophical backbone of the franchise. But let's talk about legacy, because this is where Altair separates himself from everyone else on this list. He developed the hidden blade modifications that became standard Brotherhood equipment worldwide. Every assassin after him who flicked their wrist and dropped a target from a handshake. That's Altair's innovation. He didn't just use the tools, he built them. He eliminated Templar operatives across the entire Holy Land, and his understanding of Apple of Eden technology gave him access to power that goes way beyond stabbing people really well. The man literally wrote the codex that future assassins would treat like scripture, but even Altair, the original, has to step aside for the assassin who took everything he built and turned it into a legacy spanning decades and continents, Ezio Auditore da Firenze. This is the one everyone's been waiting for, and honestly, he deserves it. Ezio Auditore is the most comprehensively developed assassin in the entire franchise. 3 full games, decades of service. We watch this man grow from a grieving teenager in Florence with 0 combat training into the undisputed leader of the Assassin Brotherhood across Italy and the Ottoman Empire. No other character in the series gets that kind of arc. Nobody even comes close. Here's what makes Ezio special. He's not just good at one stage of his life. He's exceptional at every single stage. Young Ezio is reckless and raw, but learns fast. Brotherhood Ezio is a tactical genius running an entire organization. Revelations. Ezio is an elderly master who can still dismantle a room full of guards without breaking a sweat. He personally trained Xiao Jun, recovered multiple First Civilization artifacts, and demonstrated limited reality warping capability through Apple manipulation. The man's resume is genuinely absurd, but here's the thing about Ezio that makes this ranking so painful. He's the greatest assassin who is still, fundamentally, human. Everything he accomplished through skill, intelligence, and sheer force of will. No divine bloodline carrying him. No ancient god riding shotgun in his brain. Just a man from Florence who refused to stop fighting. And that's exactly why he's not number 1. Because the 2 above him, there's something else entirely. Basim ibn Ishaq. Every assassin we've talked about so far, no matter how legendary, no matter how skilled, has been human. Basim ibn Ishaq is not. He starts out looking like one. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, he's a conventional assassin operating in 9th century Baghdad. Skilled, sure. Dangerous, absolutely. But nothing that would make you think he belongs in a different conversation than the rest of this list. Then the Loki reveal happens, and everything changes. Basim isn't just an assassin who stumbled onto some Isu tech. He is an Isu entity. Loki's consciousness has been riding through human bodies across multiple lifetimes, using First Civilization reincarnation technology, and Basim is just the latest suit, which is, not ideal for everyone around him. Here's where it gets complicated. Every other assassin on this list operates within the rules. They train, they fight, they die. Basim doesn't play by those rules because he literally exists outside of them. He maintains continuity of consciousness across centuries. He manipulates others through First Civilization technology like they're pieces on a board. And he demonstrates what can only be described as functional immunity to consequences that would destroy any normal assassin. Think about the jump from Ezio to Basim. Ezio represents the absolute peak of human excellence. Decades of training, mastery of artifacts, legendary status earned through blood and sacrifice. Basim skips all of that because he's an ancient god wearing a person. His abilities include reality manipulation and multi-lifetime strategic planning. That's not assassin work. That's something else entirely. But even a god in human skin has competition, and the next entry might actually be able to match him, Ivor. Every assassin on this list is dangerous. Some of them are legendary. A few of them have access to power that shouldn't exist, but Ivor is something else entirely. She's a Viking warrior who can go toe-to-toe with literally anyone on this list in pure combat. We're talking about someone who overwhelms heavily armored opponents through raw strength and speed that borders on superhuman. Axes, shields, swords, fists, it doesn't matter. She will end you with whatever's available. Her martial capability alone puts her in the top tier. But here's the thing. She's not just a Viking. She's the reincarnation of Odin. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Her DNA literally carries the genetic memory of an Isu god, where Basim is Loki's reincarnation playing the long game, manipulating from the shadows. Eivor is Odin reborn on the battlefield. That's not a subtle distinction. That's the difference between a chess player and a wrecking ball that also happens to be excellent at chess. She aided the Hidden Ones in establishing their presence across Viking-era England, eliminated numerous Order of the Ancients members, and helped support the organizational structures that later assassins would inherit. And she did all of this while carrying the genetic memories of a god woven into her very being. The combination of peak warrior capability with reality-shaping Isu power makes her the most powerful assassin the franchise has ever produced. It's not particularly close. Nobody else on this list can match both her raw physical dominance and her connection to forces that literally transcend human understanding. Number 1, and it isn't a conversation. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.